as we talked about, the HMI screens are driven by PCs, and when you turn on the system, which stays on most of the time, first screen that pops up, that's the command percentage that's going to the +1 controller, the 50-pin controller that has the spare with the yellow thing. It talks directly to there by an address digitally. Next box is the metric tons being experienced by the torque transducer. I said that like that on purpose. The metric tons being experienced by the torque transducer mathematically applied to the number of pinions that we're looking at and displayed here. It's not the metric tons on the leg necessarily. Sometimes it's correct, but it has a degree of error. Now I will say this, it's kind of close, but terribly inaccurate when you're climbing the leg or descending the leg. There's lots of other things going on at that moment. When you're climbing the leg, this might say 1,000 metric tons, but it's still 528. So when you let go, take a snapshot. Here, just a clock in the day. It's not there just for the hell of it. This is really important. The system now reports data to logs that go to the hard drive of the PC. These timestamps are important. In case something was to happen, we can compare the alarm logs to the login logs to the data logs, and the times have to match. This display time gets its information from the PC. That means that it has to be correct. This button here, for those who do not know, is an acknowledgement button for this box here, which is the alarm. When the alarms come, they have a code. When the alarm's coming, there's a C there. Just a C. If you acknowledge it, and the alarm's still active, then it's a CA. Okay? Once it's CA, and say the oil pressure is okay now, it becomes an inactive alarm that's already been acknowledged. Then it's a CAD, and it goes away. It disappears from the screen. Anytime there's 3 letters in an alarm, they disappear from the screen for you. So now you got, say, circuit breaker. It's a C, but you do not acknowledge, you're busy, or whatever. And then someone fixed the circuit breaker, so now the alarm's not there. But we don't want you to miss it, so then it'll say CD, and think of it as coming and done. It's silly, but it's true, CD, okay? When you do acknowledge it, now it's a CDA, and it goes away. Because no one ever seems to notice. See, people call me sometimes, what's this C and the D and all this stuff? Well, that's how it works. So, for fun, C, coming, A, acknowledge, D, done. Okay? And these 2 boxes are for preload. So just put, preload info and preload status. What those do is tell you whether preload's on or not, and also tell you which 2 legs you're about to preload. This box is the global system ready. It's a real important spot here. That's why it's where it is. It says synchro not ready when it's off because synchro, preload, and anything that requires all 4 legs requires the next box, which is local system ready. So this is global system ready, local system ready. This leg can be ready, and this leg can be ready. But if he's not ready and he's not ready, he will not come, and you cannot do synchro, you cannot do preload. There's other things you cannot do. The global system ready is for the vessel 4-legged systems that we have. It says either synchro not ready or all legs ready. And then all legs ready, green color. Huh? Alright, now this box here is a brake status. We make this very obvious that the brakes are locked. And this is the status of the pump command. It says pump on, and when it's off it just says nothing. It says pump 1 here, pump 2 here, and if there's a fault it'll show up here as well. It's only visible when active. This next box, the second one on the right hand side, is electric motor power data. It's the voltage, but it's a percentage of the full load amperage. Okay, so, and now third box here. This little asterisk here. Everyone asks me, what is this?
I know.
Just anytime anything on the system is overridden, we remind you so you don't forget. Some cases we don't even remind you, we just turn it off. Every time you lose system ready, everything resets. And you have to go in and do it again. This is not one of those cases because if a transducer is broken, it's going to stay that way for a while until you fix it or change it or whatever. Okay. But here, this is the guy we want to talk about next. This is the diagonal weight distribution reference. When there's no color, it's a good thing. When there's light yellow color, you might have to start thinking about you're getting too out of whack. This is the brake lock. This page here, when you press these buttons, these things turn green and the brakes can function normally. You come and press these things, then they turn red, the brakes cannot get a signal. Therefore, sometimes we fire against the brakes so we can see what's happening with the pressure and joystick functionality. Or you want to lock the brakes for safety. After you're finished jacking, you have air gap. You lock these brakes and you can't jack the boat unless you physically unlock the brakes. Okay, because they're spring loaded. This kills electricity and it also kills the little red thing in the LP, that extra power bar. So that someone just can't, it's like, oh, well, the brakes just came on. Bullshit. It cannot happen. It takes 3 things to make the brakes fine. Okay. And here, if we press here, it gives us another page that we can use to bleed the brakes. You get to it from the brake page. Make sure you're in the water. No air gap bleeding of the brakes.
Floating.
In the water. You're unlocking the brakes so she can slowly drip down. That's no good. So, but you press here, and the brakes release. Now you're sitting on the counterbalance valves and anything else. The motors are running, you may have some leakage, and it shows you the brake pressure in bar and in value. And it can only work if you have a local system ready. Remember the local system ready? You do it leg by leg. This is to help you bleed the brakes. If not, you'd have to have a man stand up there, move the joystick and hold the joystick. Pain in the ass. No.
Yes.
Here you just open
well, if you're up in the air, this is the only option you have.
Shouldn't bleed them up.
If you're up in the air, you ain't bleeding brakes, bro.
It's an emergency.
You just don't do it.
Why? You can always bleed the brakes, if you're up in the air, with a joystick.
You can bleed the brakes up in the air with this too. I just said it's not a good idea. I'm not saying that you can't. I'm saying you should not.
So you saying that if you're up in the air, whatever, 20 feet above the seawater, this one is safer than to stroke and bleed?
Absolutely.
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay.
There's no chance of a command signal. None. This is post pickup on PPU A, PPU B, all the way down. And if PPU A, for example, PPU A is not working. See? PPU A is showing 0. The wires have been disconnected. So we go here and we slide to PPU B, and that is the value that the leg is down. Okay? If you want to adjust these, remember I talked about going to 0 when you come to the home position. You press this and a little box pops up and you can enter the value you wish. And then when you press it, it sends both of these at once. And then you have 0. Now if you want to, let's say you have a problem and you want to put this exact thing back in there, then you put 0 here, 2.781 here, press the button, and that'll come. It does both at the same time.
So is it matter which one you select, primary or secondary? Or
Whichever one's working, whichever one you like. Maybe one of them is terribly out of whack or something broken. Whichever one you like, whichever one you trust. And again, it's a tubular leg, so it's not that critical. Okay, this is the runtime information. These blue ones, you cannot change the number. This one here, you can change the number for like filters or the last time you did whatever you did. These numbers start incrementing whenever system ready's on for that leg. So if you leave system ready running, that means the pumps are running and it's counting. Because this flow is adding to filtration, adding to wear and tear and whatnot, just like a hops meter. Alright, if you press that page that said auxiliary page, Morgan, you ever use this here? This liberation override. You know what that's for, right? Some boats, they lean when you're liberating or when you're jetting or whatever. And this inclinometer will start to go up and you cannot stop it at all. It'll make you crazy, like that crane out there. And you press this and it'll turn off. But once system ready finish, it resets itself automatically. Okay? That's what this is for. It says this override will allow the tilt alarm to sound one time during leg liberation activity, and it resets at system ready. Okay. This is a system ready that is there. I've never ever given that password to an end user. When you call me, if we got really serious trouble, this is a oh shit button to get us out of trouble. But we never usually get that for. We usually fix the problem for it. This is the electric motor heaters. Now our electric motors are in air-conditioned spaces. They're still running all these years, no problem. But if there's a short circuit in the heater or the heater's giving you trouble, you can turn them off here. Now if you press the preload page from the page menu, you get this guy. You can select pressure or you can select torque transducer. This is the normal thing. If you do select this, you're gonna get an alarm saying, hey man, did you really want to do pressure? But in case that all your transducers went to hell, you can do this pressure. And it tells you, this box here says which mode you're in. Yeah, this overrides. So in the event that there's a problem again, where the load limit's not working for the preload, you press this and she will ignore the preload limits. You have to do it manually. So this is override for the load limits, for the alarms. The load limits will still work. Let's just say you're in a situation where it's constantly throwing that banner, you can turn it off. And it also self-resets as soon as you leave preload. It goes back to normal. This is the new torque transducer page for this boat. Now typically, these two values are added and you get a leg tow. It's all changed now to metric tons. But we left kilonewtons in case anybody wanted them. This is the kilonewtons for that torque transducer, for that torque transducer, and the total. Okay? So that's that leg, that leg, that leg, that leg. Now if you happen to be on this leg and you still need to see what's happening with system pressure, we put this as a convenience. There's nothing, no reason it's there other than for your convenience. And then one last thing, okay, this is the total metric tons that's being seen by everybody. It's very low, because unless you notice it's here, when someone's over your shoulder, they don't know it's there. They don't even know what this is all about, but you do, okay? And then last but not least, there's a percentage been added to each leg to tell us the percentage of 100%, which would be 25, 25, 25, 25, and these four values added up equal 100. This gives you a snapshot of whether or not you're above or below 25%, so you get a little bit improved opportunity to balance the vessel, even though I don't know if this vessel's balanceable. We'll find that out tomorrow. Okay, this is the new alarm log. It has 100,000 points instead of 5,000. What's this say?
C, only C.
What's that mean?
Coming.
Coming and nobody acknowledged yet, and they're still here. Now if you press data logs and load, you get this new page. And we want to know what's the torque and what's the system pressure when we're jacking the boat. So in this bottom graph, we have the first two are port forward pressure and torque, then starboard forward pressure and torque. So, and all 8 of these guys are now in this box, which is the pressure and torque trend graphic. These buttons let you go back and forth as far as you want. And this line, if you grab this line with the mouse or the touch screen and you move it, it'll also allow you to run up and down the time scale. And this gives you all the information that's available in that log for the pressure and torque. However, if you press this button, load log button, what happens is when you press the button, in about less than 1 second, it stops the log, closes the log, copies the log to the computer, opens the log, restarts it. And this one up here is the pitch and the roll. So this here is the pitch and roll trend data. This is navigation buttons. This is the pitch and roll actual data. This is the pressure and torque trend. And if you notice, this box points to this minus 1,000, plus 1,000. That's because the torque transducer has a big range. And over here, the pressure is from 0 to 320 bar. See? So these 4 lines equivalent to points here. See? And they fit the numbers. So you can do the research and see exactly what was happening historically. I put this one first so we can talk about it before we look at that new page, right? So this page is designed to aid the operator in graphically looking at the loading of the leg. See, when you jack a 4-legged boat, it's never gonna just like self-level itself like a 3-legged boat. Either one leg's heavy, the front's heavy, it's heavy. But the biggie, if the front's heavier than the back, it's not the end of the world. If the port's heavier than the starboard, it's not the end of the world. So long as it's balanced diagonally, then you're not going to have the table rocking. I decided that it would be best to assist the operator so that he can see this instead of doing the math. It's very important to always jack the vessel in the best trim possible. Trim means 2 things. Vessel trim, keeping the inclinometer in the middle. Because when the vessel's trim, the legs have a tendency, if they've been properly stomped and properly preloaded, they have a tendency to stay more comfortably in the tower. They're not being side loaded. So if we're jacking the vessel where the bow is up in the air too much, the boat's going to want to try to move towards the aft racks. We don't want that. We want to try to jack the boat in the best trim possible. So that's trim number 1, vessel trim. This is keeping the mass of the vessel level to the horizontal plane. We want to keep it level. Because that theoretically will help us keep the leg happy in the towers. This will help minimize the stress and strain on 7, 8, 9 boxes, the top 3 boxes. Does that make sense? The second one is load trim. And this is keeping the loads on the legs balanced all the time. 2 different ways. One, we don't want any one leg or any 2 legs taking all the load. So this page we're going to see gives you an instant notification of who's heavy, who's not, and more importantly, the diagonal. So naturally, the operator should attempt to trim the vessel, making the inclinometer reach as close as possible to 0, 0, which is the little dot in the middle. And also trim the diagonals to values close to each other as possible so that the diagonal loads are as equal as we can get them. That reduces stress and strain also on the legs and the towers, and also on balancing the lifting capability of the hydraulics. Okay? In a perfect setup, all of the color discs on the snowman page are stacked up at the 0, 0 location, and the diagonal graphic on the main operation page is all green, like this guy. This is a good diagonal balance. In this case, the port forward, starboard, aft angle diagonal is starting to get heavy. This is a graphic that goes in and out on the heavy diagonal. So this is getting heavy. This guy here is very heavy, and now there's red color coming. You don't want that. If you get red color, you're way out of whack. And there's too much weight on one diagonal. Now you will see this in preload because we do it on purpose. That's a different story. This is the jacking the boat, right? Because when you're preloading, 2 legs are staying still, so they're really at holding, or in some cases storm holding for that moment while you're doing the preload. Okay. So this is a reminder to go back and read and try to learn and understand that this is something new that's going to help you, and it's all about this page. I did not invent the snowman name. Someone else did, because it looks like a snowman. Did not plan it to look like a snowman, but it did. This box here, percentage of diagonal load to the vessel load. In the example, you'll see that the port forward, starboard, aft angle is 58% of the total. And the port aft, starboard forward is only 42%. So this is 16% differential here. It's getting where it's too much already. So this begins to grow. And it's going to be dynamic. It's going to do this. And it's going to be on the main operation page. So it'll be doing this. And the inclinometer, red dot on the operation page, will continue to do its thing too. So now you have more information to help you. You don't have to do mental math and stuff like that. This is an active inclinometer, same as the one on the operation screen. Okay? These are the actual pitch and roll numbers that you see on the main operation screen. You know, we don't want to add things. We just want to do the same thing in a different spot in a different way. This is my standard reminder to you, hey, this is a reference. It's not precise. This is a guideline. When you climb and you descend, the torque transducer will see all sorts of new loads and the accuracy will be changed. These things are going to go all over the place. So when you're moving, we may learn that they are helpful, but I'm not sure what they're going to do. Here, this is leg loads per diagonal. I noticed when we were jacking, when it's time to trim, there's no real easy way to put it back in load trim or put it back in vessel trim. Okay? The way you do this is by sides. Now this guy's too much. So if he's too much, what do? Well, if you raise this guy, if you push this guy into the dirt more, his load's going to increase. So will his. These balls will come in and out based on fair percentage of the load on that diagonal, which will help you tremendously trying to find this balance. Because when you get to a certain point, if these guys start going out, you stop. You go front, your side, until you get back to an inclinometer trim, and eventually the goal is to get all 5 of these balls on top of one another. Then you can do what you want. Because if it's preloaded and everything's like that, you can go to the top and stay happy. You can jump up and down, you can stay on location for whatever, and you know graphically in a glance, everything's happy. Everybody's at 25, balls are good, no yellow, red color, you're good. You don't have to think anymore about the math and the this and that. It's right here for you.
This training and other videos on this channel are produced to educate the crew and all involved personnel. Feel free to use them in your training sessions.